I bought my first house, but my neighbor decided to turn my life into a nightmare. The moving truck blocked half the street before breakfast, and I still remember standing on the sidewalk with my coffee going cold in my hand, trying to act calm while my kids ran circles through the front door like we had just won some kind of lottery. It was not a fancy house, not even close. The paint on the porch railing was chipped, the kitchen drawers stuck if you pulled them too fast, and the backyard had patches where grass had clearly given up on life. But it had a yard. It had rooms where my kids could close their doors without hearing every single breath from the other side of the wall. After years of squeezing ourselves into a small apartment over a laundromat, listening to pipes cough at night and neighbors argue through vents, that little house felt huge to me. Embarrassingly huge. I kept walking from room to room like an idiot, opening closets, touching window frames, pretending I was checking for dust when really I was just trying not to cry in front of the movers. My partner kept laughing at me because I had packed the plates in 3 different boxes and labeled all of them kitchen stuff, which was technically true but also useless. And my son immediately asked if he could sleep in the backyard because apparently grass makes children lose all common sense. My daughter claimed the smaller bedroom because it got better light, then changed her mind twice, then cried because her brother had touched her box of stuffed animals. Normal moving chaos. Beautiful moving chaos, honestly. My father came by with a bag of takeout and that face he makes when he is trying not to say, "You spent too much money." And my sister showed up late with iced drinks and criticism, because that is her love language. My best friend sent voice messages every few minutes asking if I had found the shower curtain yet, like the shower curtain was the final boss of adulthood. The neighbor introduced herself before the movers had even finished unloading the couch. Although introduced is generous. She walked across her lawn in pressed pants and a sweater that looked too warm for the weather, stood at the edge of my walkway, and said, "Trash pickup is on Wednesday, but bins can't sit out all day." No hello, no welcome, no, "Wow, those boxes look heavy." Just garbage rules before lunch. I smiled because I was raised by a woman who believed smiling could keep a situation from turning ugly, even when every bone in your body wanted to ask someone what their problem was. I told her thanks, we were still learning the routine, and she looked past me at the porch like she was inspecting a crime scene. Then she said the front bushes were overgrown, and the street had standards. I thought she was just one of those neighbors who treats a driveway like a sacred border and spends too much time looking through blinds. Annoying, sure, but survivable. I even joked to my partner that night, while eating noodles from a plastic bowl because I couldn't find the forks, that every street gets assigned one person who thinks they are the mayor of recycling bins. He laughed and told me not to start a war before we had unpacked the towels. I said, "I'm not starting anything," which is funny now in the bitter way, because I absolutely ended up starting plenty. Not because I wanted drama, because some people keep stepping over lines until you either move the line, lose your mind, or both. The second day in the house, I fell. Not a little dramatic stumble where you catch yourself and pretend you meant to do it. I mean, I stepped on a broken part of the sidewalk near the side gate. My ankle folded under me. My knee hit concrete, and for a few seconds I couldn't even make noise. I just lay there with one hand under me, tasting dust, thinking, this is so stupid. This is so stupid. My partner came running because my daughter screamed, and then my son screamed because his sister screamed. And within minutes, the whole front yard felt like a public event. By that night, the ER visit had turned into x-rays, pain medication, and a surgeon explaining that the break was bad enough to need hardware. The neighbor stood on her porch watching with her arms crossed, and even through the pain, I felt embarrassed that she had made my fall something to inspect. The neighbor came over the afternoon after I got home, while I was propped on the couch with my leg elevated and my hair looking like it had survived a weather event. My partner opened the door. I could hear her from the living room saying the bins had been placed too close to the curb and the yard was already slipping. Already. We had lived there less than a week, and I had metal hardware in my leg. I called from the couch. "I'm sorry, I just had surgery, we'll handle it when we can." And she leaned slightly to see me, like my physical suffering needed verification. Then she said, "Everyone has things going on." I wish I could say I responded gracefully. I did not. I said, "Wow, what a warm welcome." And my partner shot me a look because he knew that tone. She left, but not before saying she hoped we understood the neighborhood was not like our previous situation. That phrase sat in my chest. Previous situation. Like she could smell apartment on us. Like renters or working parents or kids with plastic bikes were some sort of infection. My daughter asked what she meant, and I lied and said she was just cranky. My son asked if she was mad because our boxes were still on the porch. I said, "No, honey. Grown-ups just get weird about things sometimes." And then, because I am human and not some calm parenting brochure, I cried in the bathroom for exactly the length of one shower I was not taking because I couldn't stand without help. I was angry at the neighbor, angry at the sidewalk, angry at my own body, angry that the house I had worked so hard for already felt like I had to apologize for being inside it. That week, my partner set up a couple of cheap exterior cameras facing the porch, the side gate, and the backyard. It wasn't some elaborate security system. It was just what you buy when you're hurt, overwhelmed, and trying to feel less exposed. I thought they were mostly for peace of mind. I had no idea they would become the only reason people believed us. For a little while, I tried to be normal about her. I really did. When you are the new person on a street, you don't want to be the woman who immediately says, "Hi, nice to meet you. Your neighbor is acting like a haunted mailbox." So I smiled when I saw her. I waved from the porch. I told the kids not to stare when she stood by her hedge pretending to pull weeds while listening to our conversations. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because apparently I enjoy making things harder for myself. My partner kept saying, "She's lonely," which is what people say when they want an explanation that lets everyone sleep at night. Maybe she was lonely. Maybe she had lived there a long time and did not like change. Maybe she was used to controlling everything around her because nobody had told her no in years. All of that might be true, and none of it made what came next okay. The first serious incident happened when I was stuck upstairs after physical therapy, sweaty and sore and halfway furious because my leg wouldn't do what I wanted it to do. My partner had taken the kids to the store, and my father was supposed to be coming by later with soup I did not ask for but absolutely wanted. I heard the side gate click. At first I thought maybe my partner had forgotten something, but then I heard footsteps on gravel, slow and careful. I froze. Which sounds dramatic, but tell me what you would do if you were alone, injured, and heard someone moving through your yard. I grabbed my phone, looked at the camera feed, and there she was. The neighbor. In my backyard. Just walking like she paid taxes inside my fence. She had one hand on the side of the house and was looking up toward the windows. Then down at the ground, then at the fence latch like she was inspecting it. I called my partner, and he rushed back, but by the time he pulled into the driveway, she was near the gate acting like she had lost a garden clip. He told her she couldn't come in without permission, and she gave him this offended little laugh, like he had accused her of something wild instead of something we had literally watched her do. She said, "I'm just trying to keep an eye on things." He told her our things did not need her eyes. That night, he said maybe she did not understand boundaries, and I said that was exactly the problem, and he said we should avoid making it bigger. That sentence became a splinter between us. Avoid making it bigger. I knew what he meant. We had just moved. I was hurt. The kids were adjusting. We did not have money for lawyers or fences or whatever grown-up solution people with emergency savings use. But I also knew something had shifted in me when I saw her on that camera feed. It was not just annoying anymore. It was my yard, my windows, my children's rooms, my body trapped upstairs while someone helped herself to our space. I told him that, and he rubbed his face like he was tired of everything, including me. I hate admitting that part because he was doing a lot, but so was I. Even from the couch, even with crutches, even while crying because I couldn't carry a laundry basket. A few days later, the police came. I was folding towels at the kitchen table because standing at the counter still hurt, and my daughter was doing homework nearby with her headphones in, but not actually listening to anything. There was a knock at the door that made my stomach drop before I even knew why. 2 officers stood outside and said they had received a report of a domestic disturbance, screaming, possible destruction of a fence, and children in the home. I felt my face go hot so fast it almost hurt. My partner came from the hallway looking confused, and the officers asked if they could speak with us separately. Separately, in my own living room, with my children 5 steps away pretending not to listen. I know officers have procedures. I know false reports still have to be checked. I understand that, okay? But understanding something doesn't stop it from feeling humiliating when a stranger asks if you feel safe in your own house while your daughter looks at you like the floor has opened under her. The officer looked at his notepad and said, "Marisol, has anyone hurt you today?" Hearing my name in that context made my skin crawl. I told him no. I showed him my surgery papers, my crutches, the unfolded towels, the kids' homework. Like somehow domestic peace could be proven by messy laundry and spelling worksheets. My partner in the other room sounded angry but controlled, which honestly made me nervous because I knew he wanted to explode, and also knew exploding would make everything worse. The cameras helped clear it up. There was no fence damage, no one screaming outside, no one storming through the yard, nothing that matched the report. The officers watched the footage, apologized in that careful way people apologize when they can't say the caller was obviously lying, and gave us an incident number. One of them quietly suggested we document anything strange. As if strange was a cute little umbrella big enough to cover a woman sneaking into my yard and calling police on an imaginary family brawl. After they left, my son asked if someone thought his dad hit me. He said it so quietly I wanted to break something. I told him, no, baby, somebody made a mistake. He said, was it her? And I did not answer fast enough. When I looked across the street, the neighbor was in her front window, not hiding, just watching, with this small, satisfied look that made my whole body go cold. My partner saw it too. He stepped outside, and I grabbed his arm because I knew that walk. He said, I'm just going to ask her if she called. I said, no, you're going to give her exactly what she wants. And he pulled away from me a little too hard. Not violent, not like that, but sharp enough that I felt it emotionally. We stood there in the entryway whisper fighting while the kids sat silent in the kitchen, and I thought, look at that. She did not even need to enter the house to get inside it. After that, sleep became stupid. I worked nights anyway. So my schedule was already a mess, but this was different. I would be at my desk with billing codes open, sipping reheated coffee, and my eyes would drift to the camera feed every few minutes. The backyard, the side gate, the porch, the driveway. My best friend said I was becoming obsessed, and I said, great, put it on my medical chart, because sarcasm is cheaper than therapy. She told me to make a folder with dates and videos, not because she thought I was crazy, but because she knew I felt crazy. That helped. A little. Having files made the fear feel less like fog and more like something I could stack. Then I noticed the empty house on the other side of the neighbor. It had been vacant when we moved in, with a little sign in the window and weeds growing around the mailbox. At first, I paid no attention because I had enough problems inside my own fence, but during one of my late-night camera spirals, I saw the neighbor walking across that property too. Not once, several times. She would go up to the porch, touch the door, peer through the side window, walk around the back. During the day, she told people she kept an eye on it because the property manager was careless. It sounded noble if you ignored the part where nobody had asked her. One afternoon, a couple came to view the house. I was outside trying to water plants from a chair because apparently I had decided humiliation needed hobbies, and I watched the neighbor intercept them before they even reached the door. She spoke to them for a long time, pointing at the street, then at our house, then at the trash bins. The couple looked uncomfortable. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught pieces. Quiet street. Certain expectations. Children can be loud. My children were inside eating crackers and arguing over a cartoon, so clearly they were already guilty in absentia. I should have stayed out of it. I know. But I had that hot feeling behind my ribs, and I was tired of letting her narrate us to strangers. So when the couple came back toward their car, I called out, "Hey, just so you know, she's not the landlord." The woman paused like I had slapped the air. I explained, probably too quickly, that the property manager handled the house and the neighbor had been entering yards without permission. I did not tell them not to rent it. I did not say run. I just told the truth. The man thanked me. The woman asked if there had been problems, and I said, enough that we installed cameras, that was all. They left, and 2 days later the little sign disappeared from the window, but nobody moved in. The neighbor came to my porch that evening. She did not knock like a normal person. She slapped the door with her palm, which is a choice. My partner answered because I was still moving slowly, and she demanded to speak to the woman of the house, as if we were in a badly written church pamphlet. I came to the doorway and she said I had cost the owner good tenants by spreading lies. I told her if the truth cost someone tenants, maybe the truth was the problem. That line sounded better in my head than it did out loud, because my voice shook. She called me manipulative. I called her trespassing. She said I was bringing hostility into a peaceful street. My daughter started crying in the hallway. The city code complaint came the following week. I was on the couch with a heating pad when my phone rang, and a man from the city said they had received a report about removal of a protected tree from our property. I actually laughed because the tree in question was visible from space. Okay, not space, but from the street, the kitchen, and probably from the neighbor's judgmental dreams. It was right there, tall and inconvenient, dropping leaves into the yard like it had a personal vendetta against rakes. I said, "The tree is still here," and he sounded tired in a way that told me he had heard that sentence before. Maybe not about our tree, but about people weaponizing offices meant for actual problems. An inspector came out anyway. My father happened to be there. fixing a loose cabinet hinge because he can't sit still in anyone's home without discovering a repair mission. And he took the whole thing personally. He marched the inspector to the tree like he was presenting evidence in court. "See?" he said. "Tree." The inspector blinked and said yes, he could see that. My sister, who had come by to drop off groceries and judge my pantry organization, whispered, "This is insane!" And for once, I appreciated her dramatic timing. The neighbors across the street came over too, an older couple who had mostly waved at us until then. They showed pictures of storm damage from weeks earlier, explaining that branches had fallen in several yards, and maybe someone had twisted that into a complaint. They did not name the neighbor at first, but their faces did. After the inspector left with no citation, the woman across the street lingered near our mailbox and said softly, "She did this to the last family too. The last family." I swear those words made the air change. She told me there had been arguments about parking, about kids, about holiday decorations, about a dog that barked during the day even though the dog mostly slept. She said people got tired. Some moved, some stopped fighting, some just avoided being outside. Her husband kept glancing toward the neighbor's house like he expected her to materialize out of the shrubs. I asked why nobody warned us, and she looked embarrassed. "You don't want to seem dramatic," she said. I laughed, but not because it was funny, because that is how people like her survive, right? They count on everyone else being afraid to look dramatic. The neighbor watched the inspector leave from behind her front curtain. I could see the fabric move. My partner saw it too and muttered something under his breath. That night, he finally sat with me and watched the saved camera clips all the way through, not just the highlights I shoved in his face while angry. He watched her at the gate. He watched her by the empty house. He watched her near our side yard. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, "Okay, this is not normal." I wanted to say, "Thank you for arriving at the meeting several disasters late." Instead, I nodded, because part of me was relieved and part of me was still hurt that I had needed video evidence to be believed inside my own relationship. Those cameras caught things I wish they had not caught. At first, it was little stuff. The neighbor standing too close to the side window, pretending to inspect her plants while facing our house. Then it got worse. She crossed into the side yard when she thought nobody was home. She leaned near the small basement window. She walked along the fence line and paused by the room where the kids had been sleeping temporarily while we finished unpacking their separate bedrooms. One clip showed her near the window after dinner, head tilted, like she was listening. I watched it 3 times because my brain kept trying to make it less bad. Maybe she dropped something. Maybe she heard a noise. Maybe. Then my son asked me if she could see him sleeping. He was standing in the hallway in dinosaur pajamas that were too short at the ankles, holding a cup of water with both hands. His face was serious in that way kids get when they are trying to ask a question, without scaring themselves more. I said no. We had curtains, and his dad had put up a camera, and nobody was going to see him sleeping. He asked if we should put a chair under his door. I almost threw up. Not literally, but that deep drop in your stomach, the one that makes you realize an adult problem has leaked into your child's body. My daughter started closing the curtains before sunset. She stopped doing cartwheels in the yard because she said she felt watched. That word. Watched. In the house I had promised them would feel free. My partner changed after that, but not perfectly, because people don't become new characters just because the plot demands it. He became more protective, yes, but he also became tense and snappy. He hated that he had not taken it seriously enough sooner, and instead of saying that at first, he got weird about checking locks and correcting the kids. He told our son not to stand near the window, then apologized when our son looked scared. He told me to stop watching the clips before bed, then watch them himself in the garage. We fought about money, cameras, letters, whether to call a lawyer, whether we were becoming those people who make neighborhood feuds their whole personality. I said, "Our kid asked about being watched while sleeping, so forgive me if I'm not worried about seeming chill." He had no answer for that. We did a brief consultation with a local lawyer, the kind where you pay for a small slice of professional calm and leave with a list of things to document. The lawyer did not make dramatic promises. Actually, she was almost annoyingly practical. She said the neighbor entering the property mattered. The false reports mattered if we could show a pattern. The camera clips mattered. She suggested a written notice sent by certified mail, clearly stating that the neighbor did not have permission to enter our property and that future communication should be in writing. Nothing flashy, no big speech, just a boundary with a paper trail. I wanted something stronger because I was angry, but the lawyer said, "Strong and useful are not always the same thing. Rude. Correct, but rude." We sent the letter. My best friend came over to help me make copies because my printer chose that exact week to behave like a dying animal. My sister read the wording and said it sounded too polite, which from her meant it did not include enough emotional damage. My father said nothing, just nodded like he approved of paper. The neighbor received it on a Friday afternoon. We knew because delivery tracking exists and because she stood on her porch staring at our house for nearly 20 minutes afterward. I watched from behind the kitchen curtain, which I know makes me sound no better than her, but there is a difference between surveillance and self-defense. At least that is what I told myself while hiding like a raccoon. By Monday, another city complaint landed. This time it was about trash, standing water, and unsanitary conditions in the backyard. I had to read the message twice. Our backyard had 1 plastic slide, 3 patio chairs, a half-dead basil plant, and the emotional remains of my patients. The inspector came back, and I recognized him immediately. He recognized me too, which is not the kind of neighborhood fame a person wants. He walked around, checked the yard, took notes, and found nothing. My partner made a joke about charging the city rent for how often they visited, and the inspector smiled like he was trying not to. Then he said carefully that repeated unfounded complaints could be documented. Carefully is doing a lot of work there. He couldn't accuse her, but I could hear the meaning. The neighbor told people we were harassing her. That was the part that made me feel like I was losing my grip. She would stand near the mailbox talking to anyone unlucky enough to slow down and say we were filming her, threatening her, poisoning the street against her, filming her. Ma'am, you are in my yard. That is where my camera points, because that is my yard. But some people only heard pieces. A man down the block started avoiding eye contact. Another woman gave me a tight smile like she wanted to stay neutral, which is fair. Except neutrality feels very different when your child is afraid of a window. I became too aware of how I looked outside. Was I angry? Was I making a face? Did I seem unstable? That is the nasty little gift of someone lying about you. You start performing innocence in your own driveway. My partner, under stress and apparently possessed by the ghost of bad timing, suggested we not react to every little thing. We were in the kitchen. I had bills spread across the table, my leg hurt, and the kids were upstairs. I stared at him and said, "Which little thing? The police? The fake tree? The fake trash? The yard visits? Please rank them for me." He said he meant we shouldn't feed the conflict, and I said the conflict was feeding itself just fine. Then he said, "I'm trying to keep this family from falling apart." And I snapped, "Maybe try believing the person holding it together." The second I said it, I knew it was unfair. He was holding plenty together too, but I was tired of being reasonable. I was tired of translating fear into polite sentences so everyone could digest it. He slept on the couch that night, not because I kicked him out, but because we both acted like people in a bad cable drama and refused to be the first one to soften. Around dawn, I went downstairs for water and found him awake, staring at the dark window. He said, without looking at me, "I don't know how to fix this." I sat on the bottom step because my leg was stiff, and because I did not trust myself standing near him without crying. I said, "I don't need you to fix it alone. I need you to stop acting like my fear is the problem." He nodded. That was all. Not a movie reconciliation. No swelling music. Just 2 exhausted adults in a half-unpacked house, realizing the neighbor had become a wedge because we had both been too proud to say we were scared. We installed a stronger side gate after that. Not pretty, not cheap, not the kind of home improvement I had daydreamed about while saving for a yard. My fantasy had been string lights and maybe a little herb garden, not hardware that said, "Please stop entering my property," in metal form. The neighbor watched the installation from her porch. Of course she did. She called across the lawn that the gate made the street look unfriendly. My father, who was holding a level, said, "Good." I almost laughed for the first time in days. My sister said we should put up a sign that said "unfriendly but moisturized," which made no sense and still helped. The stronger gate stopped the easy backyard wandering, so she shifted to the front. She would walk slowly past our house at odd times, pausing near the front windows, looking at the porch, inspecting the flower bed like she had been deputized by mulch. If we were outside, she acted like she happened to be stretching her legs. If we were inside, the cameras caught her stopping longer. One evening, I went out to take trash to the bin without turning on the porch light because I was in sweatpants, a tank top, and a mood. The street was quiet. The kids were doing homework, my partner was on a call, and I was thinking about nothing more meaningful than whether we had enough milk. Then I saw a shape near the front yard, close to the side of the porch, moving toward the window, and I screamed. Not cute, not brave. A full, ugly scream that probably shaved years off my own life. The shape jerked back, and the porch light snapped on because my partner came running. It was her, the neighbor. standing there with one hand near her chest, like I had attacked her by noticing her existence. She said she heard something and came to check. I said, "Through my front yard?" She said I was hysterical. I said she was trespassing. My partner came outside and told her to leave. She started yelling that we were creating a hostile environment and that she had a right to walk. I said, "Not at my window in the dark, you don't." My voice cracked on the last word, which made me even angrier because fear always sounds like weakness when it leaves your body. The next week, I called the property manager for the empty house. I expected a quick, useless conversation, maybe a receptionist telling me to email a general inbox where complaints go to retire. Instead, the property manager called back herself. I explained what had been happening, kept my voice steady, and mentioned that potential renters had been confronted. There was a pause. Not a confused pause. A guilty one. I know a guilty pause when I hear it because I have children and a sister who lies badly. She said there had been prior concerns. Prior concerns is such a beautiful phrase, isn't it? It can mean anything from someone complained once to we have been ignoring a flaming pile of warnings because paperwork is inconvenient. I pressed her. Not politely either. I said, "Did you know she was going on to that property?" She said they had heard she monitored the house but had never authorized it. I asked if they had told prospective tenants. Another pause. She said each situation was handled individually. I almost laughed. Individually. Like the neighbor had not made herself a subscription service of misery. The property manager admitted several applicants had backed out after uncomfortable interactions. One family had signed, then changed their minds before moving in. Another had complained the neighbor tried to set rules about parking and yard toys before they had even gotten keys. I felt this hot, clean rage. Not the messy kind I had been carrying, but a focused one, because adults had known. Maybe not everything, but enough. Enough to let the next person walk in blind. We also started talking to neighbors. Carefully, because nobody wants to be recruited into a street war by the woman with the binder. The older couple across the street gave us dates they remembered. A single mother down the block said the neighbor once called the school because her kids were playing basketball in the driveway after dinner, claiming they were unsupervised. A retired man said she had reported his fence color. Fence color. I had to put my pen down at that one because my brain refused to make space for it. Not everyone wanted to be involved, which I understood, but even the ones who hesitated confirmed the same basic thing. She watched. She complained. She exaggerated. She made normal life feel like something you had to defend. Then came the letter. It was tucked against our front door on a Wednesday afternoon, a thick envelope with no stamp because she had clearly walked it over herself. I remember because I had just gotten back from physical therapy and was feeling proud that I had made it from the car to the porch without swearing. Small victories. I opened the envelope at the kitchen table while my son ate cereal, even though it was nowhere near breakfast time, because my parenting had become a loose suggestion. The letter was pages long. Pages. Typed, single-spaced, with little handwritten notes in the margins like she was grading our existence. At first it was the usual nonsense. The bins, the yard, the tone of the household. Then I kept reading and felt my face go numb. She mentioned the blue curtain in my daughter's room, the stuffed animal my son kept near the window, the small rug in the living room with the corner that curled up, the kids' muddy shoes by the back door, the laundry basket I had left near the hallway after surgery because I couldn't carry it upstairs. She described items inside my house with the casual confidence of someone who had studied them. Not glanced. Studied. My son asked why I looked weird. I folded the letter so fast I nearly tore it and told him nothing. Go finish your cereal, which is exactly the kind of suspicious sentence that makes children more suspicious. My partner came in from the garage and I handed it to him. He read it once, then again, slower. He stopped at the line about the stuffed animal. His jaw changed. I know that sounds like a strange detail, but I watched anger settle into his face in a way I had not seen before. Not defensive anger, not argument anger, protective anger. He said, very quietly, she could only see that from the side window, or if she was right up near the glass. I said, I know. When the kids found out, because of course they found out. My daughter went pale and asked which curtain. My son asked if the neighbor knew where his bed was. I wanted to lie, but lying had started to feel like building a house out of wet paper. I told them the neighbor had been looking too closely at things that were none of her business, and the adults were handling it. My daughter said, you said she couldn't see. I deserved that. It landed right in my chest. I said, I thought the curtains were enough. I'm sorry. She did not hug me. She went upstairs and closed her door. My son stayed at the table and pushed cereal around his bowl until it got soggy. That night, nobody slept well. My daughter kept turning her light on. My son asked to sleep with his door open. I sat in the hallway for a while because I couldn't decide which room needed me more, then got angry at myself because the answer was both and neither and all of us. My partner called the lawyer the next morning. No debate, no maybe, just called. The lawyer told us to keep the original letter in a safe place, make copies, and add it to the documentation. She said the details inside the letter strengthened the argument that the neighbor had been observing areas where she had no legitimate reason to look. Again, practical. Again, not satisfying enough for the rage in my body, but useful. We put privacy film on the bedroom windows, and let me tell you, nothing says fresh start like spending a Saturday making your children's rooms harder to spy into. My best friend helped, mostly because she did not trust me on a ladder and because she enjoys projects that involve outrage. My sister took the kids out for lunch, which was kind of her, then texted me a picture of my daughter looking serious over fries, which made me cry on the bathroom floor. I cried a lot during that period in weird places: pantry, laundry room, parked car, shower chair. I was becoming a tour guide of my own breakdown. But I also got meaner, in a productive way. I stopped apologizing in emails. I stopped softening words like trespass and false report. I stopped saying maybe when I meant she did this. My relationship with my partner stayed tender in the bruised sense, not the romantic sense. We were better because he had finally stepped all the way in, but I could still feel the earlier loneliness like an old ache. One night, after the kids were asleep, he said he hated that he had made me prove it. I said I hated it too. He said he thought staying calm would protect us. I said staying calm had protected his image of himself, not us. That hurt him. I could tell. I also did not take it back, because sometimes a true sentence is mean and still needs to exist. He apologized again. I accepted it, but not in the clean, shiny way people want forgiveness to happen. More like, I am putting this apology on the shelf, and we will see if your behavior keeps earning it. The neighbor's next complaint was, again, about trash and unsanitary conditions, because apparently creativity was not her strongest department. This time, when the inspector arrived, I had the binder ready. I did not shove it at him like a lunatic, though I wanted to. I calmly explained that we had received multiple unfounded complaints, had police incident reports, had camera footage of trespassing, and had a letter containing detailed observations of the inside of our home. He looked tired before I started, and deeply tired by the time I finished. But he listened. He walked the yard, found nothing, took photos, and then asked to see the letter. I handed him a copy, not the original, because I had become the sort of person who says copy like I am in a legal drama even though I was wearing leggings with a bleach stain. He read the parts I pointed out and looked toward the neighbor's house. He did not say much. Government workers rarely say the dramatic thing you want them to say. But he did say, "This helps establish context." Context. Another boring word that suddenly mattered. He told us to submit everything together, organized by date so any future complaint would be evaluated with the pattern in mind. It was not victory. It was not even close. But it was the first time an official person treated the situation like a pattern, instead of one weird neighborly misunderstanding at a time. Meanwhile, the kids were changing in ways that made me both proud and furious. My daughter became cautious, but she also became blunt. She told my sister, "Mom says we have boundaries now," like she had discovered a new religion. My son taped a drawing to his window that said private, spelled wrong the first time, then corrected with a marker. I wanted to laugh and cry at the same time. They still played in the yard, but only if one of us was outside or near the kitchen window. The freedom I had promised them came with supervision, and that felt like a personal failure even though I knew, logically, I had not caused it. The property manager received our packet and suddenly became much more responsive. Funny how organized evidence can improve customer service. She sent a written notice to the neighbor stating that she was not authorized to enter or monitor the vacant property and shouldn't interfere with showings or prospective tenants. She did not share all the details with us, but she confirmed it in writing. I saved that message in 3 places because by then I trusted technology only slightly more than I trusted the neighbor, which is to say, not enough. Former applicants also agreed to provide written notes about their experiences. One couple wrote that the neighbor warned them against letting children use the yard after dusk. Another said she asked what church they attended before they had even signed the lease. That one made my sister say, "Oh, she's collecting souls now." And I had to sit down because I laughed too hard and my legs still hated joy. My partner had his own reckoning during that stage. He sat with the kids one evening and told them the adults had not handled everything perfectly. He did not blame me. He did not make it about being stressed. He said he was sorry for times he acted like staying quiet would make the problem go away. My daughter, who had inherited my ability to hold a grudge with both hands, asked why he did that. He said because he was scared of making things worse and did not want to admit he was scared. My son said, "Grown-ups get scared?" My partner said yes. I watched from the kitchen doorway and tried not to interrupt, because I am very good at interrupting and sometimes very bad at letting other people repair things. It was not perfect, but it mattered. For a couple weeks, the neighbor went quiet. Not gone. Quiet. There is a difference. She still watched from windows. She still avoided us with theatrical disgust. But no police. No inspector. No porch slapping. The kids relaxed a little. My daughter left her curtains open during the day. My son played soccer in the yard with my partner and only looked at the neighbor's house twice. I started physical therapy without checking the cameras between every exercise. My best friend said my voice sounded less like I was bracing for impact. I told her not to get sentimental because it would ruin my reputation, but I knew she was right. Then, because peace apparently made the neighbor itchy, she made her worst mistake. It was late, past the point when our street usually went quiet except for cars passing in the distance, and someone's porch chimes being dramatic in the wind. I was working at the kitchen table because my desk chair upstairs made my legs stiff, and the house had that tired nighttime mess everywhere. Cups in the sink, one shoe by the stairs, a pile of school papers I had sworn I would sort and then ignored with my whole spirit. My partner had fallen asleep on the couch with the remote in his hand. I glanced at the camera feed out of habit and saw movement near the side fence. The neighbor was carrying a dark trash bag. She moved quickly, but not quickly enough. She came through the front edge of our yard, walked along the fence, and placed the bag near the side where it would be visible from the street if someone knew where to look. Then she stepped back, took a picture with her phone, and walked away. I sat there staring at the screen, not breathing right. My first feeling was not fear. It was disbelief so strong it felt almost peaceful. Like my brain said, "Oh, finally, she has made it easy." I woke my partner by saying his name in that voice you use when the house is on fire or a child is vomiting. He jumped up and I pointed at the camera. We watched the clip together, then watched it again. He said a word I won't repeat because my father reads my messages sometimes, and I still pretend to be respectful. I saved the clip. I backed it up. I sent it to myself. I sent it to my best friend with no context. And she replied with, "Please tell me, this is what I think it is." It was. It absolutely was. The next morning, before I even called anyone, the city called us. Another complaint. Trash accumulation, possible rodents, unsanitary conditions. I almost admired the audacity, which is not the same as respecting it. I told the code office we had video of the complainant placing the trash bag herself. There was a silence on the line that fed me for the rest of the day. The inspector came out, the same one as before, and I showed him the clip. No speech, no dramatic setup, just pressed play. He watched the neighbor walk into frame, watched her place the bag, watched her take the picture, watched her leave. The trash bag did not even belong to us. It had mailers inside with no names, food wrappers we did not buy, and some yard clippings from plants we did not have. The inspector photographed everything, removed nothing until he had what he needed, and then told us the department would attach the footage to the complaint history. He also said future complaints matching that pattern would be reviewed in light of the documentation. Again, not fireworks, not prison, not a dramatic public downfall. But the machine that had been used against us finally started recording the person using it. The property manager received the video too. Her reply came within an hour, which told me she understood exactly how bad it looked. She said the neighbor would receive a stronger written notice regarding interference, trespass, and harassment connected to the vacant property and prospective tenants. The lawyer told us to file an updated police report with the new footage. We did. The officer who took the report watched the clip and sighed in a way that felt personal. He said they could document a formal trespass warning for our property, meaning that if she entered again, the situation would be treated differently. Because of the prior incidents and the video, they also documented the pattern. We asked for everything to be noted. It was not a restraining order. It did not magically build a wall. But it was official. The neighbor tried to explain it, of course. People like that don't stop because reality becomes obvious. They simply start negotiating with it. She told one neighbor she had found the trash bag and moved it closer so we would notice. The video showed her bringing it from her side, but okay. She told another that she was documenting a health concern. She told the property manager we were framing her, which would have required us to control her body, her phone, and her poor decision-making. So honestly ambitious. By then, though, people were done. The older couple stopped answering when she called across the street. The single mother told her not to speak to her children. The man with the dog changed his walking route, not out of fear of us, but because he said he was tired of being trapped in sidewalk court. After the trash video, official consequences finally came, though real life is not dramatic in the way people think. The trespass warning was now on record. The city code department attached notes to our address history stating that repeated complaints had been unfounded, and one complaint was supported by footage showing the condition being created before it was reported. The property manager sent her written notice to stay away from the vacant house and stop interfering with applicants. None of that made her disappear. She still lived next door. She still had curtains. She still had opinions, but her power depended on people believing her first, and that was gone. The family fallout took longer to settle. That part surprised me, which makes me sound naive because obviously months of stress don't vanish because a city file gets updated. My daughter stayed prickly. She did not like being told it's over, because to her, the neighbor was still visible from her window. My son became clingy for a while, especially at bedtime. He wanted the hallway light on. He asked whether police reports could stop someone from looking. I said they couldn't stop eyes, but they could help stop behavior. He said that was not the same. I said, "You're right. Sometimes parenting is just admitting the world is less comforting than the answer you wish you had." Slowly, the house started becoming a home again in boring ways, which are the best ways. We painted my daughter's room a color she chose and then regretted, but I refused to repaint immediately because I am loving, not made of free labor. My son planted seeds in a little corner of the yard and checked them every morning like they owed him rent. My partner hung string lights, finally, and they looked slightly crooked because we are not a magazine family. My best friend came over for dinner and spilled sauce on the rug the neighbor had once mentioned in her creepy letter, and we laughed so hard about it that I almost felt normal. The neighbor did not come over. She did not comment. She watched less, or at least she hid it better. I accepted that as peace because sometimes peace is not the absence of the person who hurt you. Sometimes it is their inability to keep steering your day. A few months later, the empty house finally rented. A small family moved in, quiet and nervous, probably warned by the property manager in the most legally sanitized way possible. I saw the neighbors start toward them on moving day, and my whole body prepared for battle like a ridiculous neighborhood rooster. But before she reached the driveway, the older woman across the street called out to the new family and brought them a tray of cookies. The single mother came over next. Then my father, who happened to be visiting, offered to help carry a box because he can't resist boxes or moral symbolism. The neighbor stopped at the edge of her lawn, realized she wouldn't be the first voice they heard, and went back inside. I stood on my porch with a laundry basket against my hip, watching this tiny social correction happen in real time. It was not revenge. It was better. It was the street choosing not to leave another family alone. One evening, not long ago, I was making dinner while the kids played in the yard. Nothing special. My daughter was bossing my son around about a game she invented, and he was pretending not to love being included. My partner was outside pretending to fix something near the lights, which mostly meant standing with a tool and looking thoughtful. I was stirring sauce and half listening through the open window. The neighbor's house was quiet. Her curtains were closed. For once, I realized I had not checked the cameras all day. Not once. The thought landed so gently that I almost missed it. I stood there with the spoon in my hand looking at the yard. The grass still had bald spots. The porch rail my father fixed was slightly crooked. The privacy film on the windows caught the evening light in a way that was not pretty exactly, but practical, and practical had become its own kind of beauty to me. My daughter laughed loud and unguarded. My son chased her with a plastic cup full of water, and she yelled that he was ruining the rules, which is what she says when she is secretly having fun. My partner glanced toward the kitchen and smiled. Not big, not dramatic, just tired and real. The neighbor still lives there. I know people love endings where the villain moves away, loses everything, writes an apology letter, and everyone claps. That did not happen. She is still next door, still herself, still probably convinced she was the wronged party because some people would rather choke on their own story than swallow the truth. But she doesn't come into my yard anymore. Her complaints don't land the way they used to. The street knows. The city knows. The property manager knows. More importantly, my kids know that when something feels wrong, we don't have to make ourselves smaller to keep someone else comfortable. That night, after dinner, my son left his shoes in the middle of the hallway. My daughter complained that the sauce had too many green things, and my partner forgot to lock the back door until I reminded him with a look. Normal. Annoying. Perfect. In the way normal life is perfect after you have spent months defending it. Before bed, I walked past the front window and saw my reflection over the dark glass. For once, I did not look scared first. I looked tired, yes, because I am always tired, but I also looked like someone who had stayed. Not politely, not quietly, but stayed. And for the first time since the moving truck blocked half the street and I stood there pretending not to cry into cold coffee, the house felt like hours without an asterisk.